Good morning, everyone. I am Reverend Ellen Quaadgras, and I serve here at South Church with Kirsten Hunter, our Director of Lifespan Ministry, and together we support you in your ministries to each other and to the wider world. Welcome to this place where we invite you to take the risk of bringing more of your whole self, your resilience and your vulnerability, your enthusiasm and the ways that you feel tired, your successes and the places you just are still in the struggle. Here we welcome all of you to find center, find connection, find a place to rest, and a platform from which you can again begin to live the values you hold most dear. Welcome to everyone online and here in the sanctuary. It is good to be together this morning. And if this is your first or second time with us, a special welcome to you. There are green cards in many of the pews. You can fill that out, or you can use a QR code in your order of service to sign up for a newsletter and find out more about us. We have large print hymnals in the back and assistive listening devices. The ushers can help you with either one. Right after our time for all ages, if this is your first time, we invite you to accompany your young one downstairs and sign them in for religious education classes. I want to acknowledge and thank everyone who is part of the service today. Lissa, Mascio, our worship associate, part of an amazing team of 8 fellow worship leaders. Susan Adams, bringing our musical interludes to life on the piano, with Cathy, Okhuysen, and Jen Leyden leading us in song, Kirsten offering the time for all ages, and so many others behind the scenes making all of this possible. Our theme this month is the gift of transformation, and the question I hold today is what it takes to open ourselves to living life more deeply, joyfully, and with more meaning. Please do note I will be talking about the topic of war today. If this is not for your spirit on this day, please do take care of yourself and slip out if you need to. Transformation invites us to take a journey that is beautiful and also difficult, which can challenge our assumptions and previous ways of understanding. One example of this is about the land on which our sanctuary was built, and this land had been stewarded for over 12,000 years by the Abenaki and Pennacook nations, people who did not cede this land and for whom full justice remains elusive, people whose wisdom continues to offer healing now. We name this because this truth has not always been part of our collective awareness of the history of this place. And we name it every week so that it can become woven into our awareness, transform the present into a future that we are yet building of more accountability, justice, and true reconciliation. I now invite you to silence your cell phone as we take in some announcements, followed by a testimonial by Cathy Wolff.
Yes, good morning all. It's lovely to see you. I have a few announcements to highlight, but they're all right here in your order of service. So as I name them, please feel free to look, actually, I encourage you to look at the order of service and read through all of the announcements. I'd like to lift up that this morning downstairs, the Committee on Ministries will be at a table offering an update on incredible work that they're doing around the development of a reflective circle process here at South Church. If you're curious about what that means, go talk to them during social hour. Also, Jen Leyden will be down at the main desk as you get to the first landing downstairs. If you are curious about getting hooked up with the South Church database as a member or a friend of the church, she can help you with that. Our Journey to Membership class, as we've been letting folks know, the dates are set and they're in here. That starts on the 17th of this month. And registration is open also for the Star Island retreat in the summer. That does tend to fill up, and it is a really fantastic way to make connections and new, deeper friendships here at South Church. So I encourage you to do that. And lastly, our associate program, we have 5 areas of ministerial leadership groups, associate groups, including a social justice associate team, a learning associates, pastoral associates, fellowship associates, and worship associates, and they're giving testimonials this month because recruitment for that leadership position is open now. So if you've been thinking about wanting to sort of delve into any of those major areas of ministry here at South Church, now is the time to start talking to folks. And to that end, I believe Cathy Wolff is going to offer us a testimonial this morning. There she is.
Good morning. Inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. That's the part of our mission statement that has always resonated with me. It's why I became a social justice associate. I once belonged to an organization that knew the strength of acting together for the greater good. In that case, it was stopping construction of a nuclear power plant. We had mixed results, but the experience taught me the value of community, of trusting each other, listening to each other, and creating a shared path of action. Besides, it's a lot more fun than tackling things solo or not tackling anything at all. And it can even be transforming, personally or in the larger community. As a social justice associate, I've again found a sense of being part of something bigger than myself, a feeling underpinned by mutual respect and trust. Last year, we focused on how to be better allies to Indigenous people, starting with raising awareness. We worked to integrate a land acknowledgement into our Sunday services, a practice that Reverend Ellen and Kirsten have adopted thoughtfully and beautifully, always keeping it fresh and always gently noting that acknowledgement alone is not enough. We also organized a film showing and discussion to deepen South Church's collective understanding of Indigenous issues. And at the suggestion of representatives of New Hampshire Indigenous people, we integrated recognition of the value of native plants into the church's pocket garden tour. This year, we started talking about how best to encourage and support a broader base of social justice involvement among South Church members. We paid attention to the social justice concerns people were asked at a service last year to note in writing, along with what skills they thought they could offer. Check out the bulletin board down in the hall downstairs. It's the raindrops. We used those concerns as a way to organize candidate groups for the shared plate ballot last month, which is something Social Justice Associates also oversees. Later this year, we plan to offer several presentations around some of those issues, providing our church community information and discussion, but also avenues of action. We invite everyone interested in social justice to talk with us. We currently are, myself, Jackie Ellis, B.J. Latz, Janet Pulaski, Robin Schnell, Anita Roseth, Tess Feltes, and Deanna Strand. There will be an SJA table at social hour, as you just heard today, and again April 7th. Also, to further the exchange of ideas, everyone is invited to a special SJA meeting March 17th, which will include question and answer and open discussion. As long as I see you've all got your calendars out, you may be thinking of getting active or more active, there's something happening Tuesday, May 7th. The church and social justices will welcome Veterans for Peace marchers who are en route to Washington, D.C. We will offer them food and bed and rides and smiles. And there will be a program of speakers and music that night, Tuesday, March 7th, at the church. More information will follow, but if you might be able and willing to help with that visit, food, rides, beds, smiles, we'll have a sheet at our table today downstairs, a sign-up sheet. Thanks. Signing up doesn't mean you have to do anything, it's just that you're interested. Meanwhile, SJA also has just begun to think and talk about how our work involves spiritual growth and relationship, and we'll have a retreat soon to look at that in more depth. The SJA is a small group, but we welcome new members. We also welcome and are ready to talk with anyone who wants to get involved in specific issues in a little or big way that might not mean joining the SJA, at least not this year. But we're here to listen, support, and cheer you on. And together, we can build a network, maybe even a spider web of social justice at South Church and extend it to the larger community.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere.
Good morning. If you're watching us remotely, I invite you to light your own candle at home while Reverend Ellen lights the chalice here in the sanctuary. As Reverend Ellen said, our March theme is transformation, so I bring you these words by the Reverend Eric Walker Wickstrom, entitled Why We're Here. Here today, in this place, and with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves in this world. May this chalice we light our way. Now, if you would please stand as you're able and join me in reciting our mission statement, which is in your order of service as well as on your screen. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. Many of us are familiar with JFK's words from his inaugural address on January 20th, 1961. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, challenging every American to contribute in some way to the public good. However, fewer of us have probably heard his statement establishing the Peace Corps on March 1st, 1961, which was 63 years ago this past Friday. He said, "We have in this country an immense reservoir of such men and women anxious to sacrifice their energies and time and toil to the cause of world peace and human progress. And if the life will not be easy, it will be rich and satisfying. For every young American who participates in the Peace Corps, who works in a foreign land, will know that he or she is sharing in the great common task of bringing to man that decent way of life which is the foundation of freedom and a condition of peace." He spoke of the transformative power of service in community building. My dad joined the Peace Corps and served in Colombia from 1968 to 1970. He was later a conscientious objector in the war, and he also had a 4F waiver, so he really was not going to Vietnam. But he did, in fact, want to serve and be a helping hand in the world. For his first year in Colombia, he traveled the rural countryside, often by mule, with education administrators setting up sports programs and building basketball courts in dozens of small villages to encourage the kids to play sports instead of engage in violence. During his second year of service, he was in the city of Medellin at a technical high school, teaching physical education to future teachers and hosting sporting seminars for professors. We all know the transformative power of team sports and of physical exercise, as well as the bonding together as a community to build a communal resource, whether it's a basketball court in South America or a good old-fashioned community barn raising in the American South or West. I found this quote from Jon Stewart on Facebook, although I did Google it, so I do think it's real. "There should be a draft where every young person has to do a year of something, military, public works, something so that we all feel invested in the same game, because that's part of what we've lost." As you know, the United States exercised a mandatory draft to make war back in the late 60s and early 70s. But many countries around the world today, from South America to Korea to Israel, and even some Scandinavian countries, continue to have mandatory military service, usually just a year or two in late teens or early 20s. While I agree with Jon Stewart, we have seemed to have lost some sense of communal investment and purpose. I also feel like if we have a draft for war or military service, why shouldn't there be a draft for peace, like the Peace Corps? Imagine if we brought back emergency relief agencies like the CCC or WPA that FDR created to address severe economic problems in the early 1930s. Wouldn't it be transformative for our society and the world at large if we all invested in the same sort of resources in community growth and transformation as we do in war making? I'd like to go off script for a moment. In drafting my opening words, I had a transformative moment. It was part of my childhood, knowing my dad was in the Peace Corps and a conscientious objector. We actually had Colombian blow darts on the wall in our living room. But I'd never really asked him about it, and so in between Googling JFK and Jon Stewart, I actually picked up the phone and called my dad yesterday, a little late in the process. I'm not really close to my dad. He is not a particularly emotionally available person, and he's really chosen not to be engaged in my life and my daughter's life. But that conversation was really transformative. I had never asked him about his Peace Corps service, and he really opened up. I mean, I felt like I was talking to a completely different human being than the one who raised me or who I talked to on a couple times a month. He was so engaged and excited about what he was talking about and his experience. It was really eye-opening, and I also learned that he wanted to be a teacher. He'd actually gone to college and got a teaching degree and taught high school math briefly until he had kids, my brothers and I, and decided he needed money. So late 70s, early 80s, he went into computer science. But I do wonder what sort of dad he might have been had he followed his passion into public service and spent his working career teaching children math and science that he loved. So what would my childhood have been like with the transformation of public service? So let's sing. If you're able to join in, please rise. Our opening hymn is 389, Gathered Here.
I think we're getting there.
We're getting there? Yeah? Okay. So we're going to do this as a round. This side will follow me, and that side will follow Jen. We'll hear a little piano, and then we'll sing it once together. And then where the number 2, that's where we'll come in. When they get to 2, the second time around, we'll come in. Is that clear?
We're going to start it.
Yeah. We're going to sing it all together.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in the struggle and the body. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the body. Spirit, draw near. Spirit, draw near.
Hey, if anyone who would like to hear a story from a little closer up, you're welcome to come, anyone of all ages. I have a new book we've never read before at South Church because it just got delivered to my house yesterday. And it is about transformation. Some of you might remember a couple weeks ago we were talking about different ways that we can be a part of building a different world, of affecting change in the world. And one of the ways we talked about was through art and creativity. And this is a story about changing the world through art and creativity. And it is very strange to read a book and see everybody looking over there. But it makes perfect sense because we have the images up for you all. So this story is called Maybe Something Beautiful. And the author is F. Isabel Campoy and Teresa Howell, illustrated by Rafael Lopez. In the heart of a gray city, there lived a girl who loved to doodle, draw, color, and paint. Every time she saw a blank piece of paper, Mira thought to herself, maybe. And because of this, her room was filled with color and her heart was filled with joy. On her way to school one day, Mira gave a round apple to Mr. Henry, the owner of the shop down the street, and she gave a flower to Ms. Lopez, the lady with the sparkling eyes. She gave a songbird to Mr. Sachs and a red heart to the policeman who walked up and down the streets. On her way home, Mira taped a glowing sun onto the wall, hiding in the shadows. Her city was less gray, but not much. The next day, Mira saw a man with a pocket full of paintbrushes. He gazed at the wall. He looked at her sun. He held his fingers up in a square and peered through them. He said thoughtfully. What do you see? Mira asked. Maybe something beautiful, the man replied. What do you think he's thinking? Bam! Pow! Just like that, he dipped a brush in paint, and the shadows scurried away. Sky blue cut through the gloom. The man's laughter was like a rainbow spreading across the sky. "Who are you?" Mira asked. "I'm an artist," he said, "a muralist. I paint on walls." "I'm an artist too," she told him. He handed Mira a brush. "Then come on." Mira dipped it in the loudest color she saw. Yow-wee! The wall lit up like sunshine. As the man drew pictures on the bricks, Mira added color, punch, and pizzazz. Soon, Mr. Sachs joined in. Then came others. Everyone painted to the rhythm. Salsa, merengue, bebop. Even Mira's mama painted and danced the cha-cha-cha. The whole neighborhood became a giant block party until the policeman walked up. "Excuse me," he said. The music stopped. Mira put her brush down. They were surely in trouble. The officer cleared his throat. Then he paused. "May I paint with you?" he asked. So Mira handed him a paintbrush and the music started again. Teachers and papas jumped in, babies too. Mira and the man handed out brush after brush. Color spread throughout the streets. So did joy. Wherever Mira and the man went, art followed, like the string of a kite. After they colored the walls, they painted utility boxes and benches. They decorated sidewalks with poetry and shine, and everyone danced. Together, they created something more beautiful than they had ever imagined. When their clothes were splattered with a million colors, everyone sat down to rest, except the muralist. His eyes sparkled. "You, my friends, are all artists," he told them. "The world is your canvas." He smiled wide, then pulled everything together in big, sweeping motions. His paintbrush was like a magic wand. When he was finished, Mira added one more bird, way up in the sky. Maybe, she thought, just maybe. So you want to know something about that story? It's based on a true story about two people, two artists who lived in San Diego, and they felt like the city was gray and kind of sad, and they took on a mission to brighten it up. And they painted murals all over the place. And they wrote poems on sidewalks. So when people would walk through town and they looked down at their feet, they would see poetry. And the whole community got involved. It is a real story. And when whole communities take on changing something, amazing things can happen. So that is my time for all ages, for all of you today. And if you would like to head downstairs, we're going to sing you a song now.
Every week at the Offertory, we each give what we are able in order to support South Church, the building, the staff, the congregants, as well as the greater community. In an effort coordinated by our fabulous social justice associates, who you heard from this morning, each month we share that collection with a different community nonprofit organization. During the month of March, the collection will be shared with the Joan Lovering Health Center, which is located in Greenland, New Hampshire, just down the road. They welcome people of all genders, ages, and sexual orientations in a supportive environment with the mission to honor, respect, and advocate for the right of everyone to maintain freedom and choices regarding their own sexual and reproductive health in a comfortable and modern health center. You can donate in many ways. If you happen to have some cash with you or a check, please feel free to use the collection baskets, which are about to be passed. If you, like me, rarely have actual money, you can use our mobile app, Vanco. You can give via the donate link on our website, or you can scan the fancy new QR code that is right in your order of service. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Holding in my heart the anniversary of Selma coming up this week, as well as the eroding of the gains that King and his fellow civil rights workers have won. Holding in my heart the people of Gaza and the people everywhere whose suffering can't be captured in words. Let us gather our hearts and minds in a spirit of prayer. I want to invite us into these words by Reverend Sean Parker Dennison in the form of a story, which is also a poem. At the beginning of the year, I went to my local interfaith clergy meeting. The person in charge of hosting had asked us to come prepared to discuss a simple practice. What word would we claim for the new year? The first colleague chose hope. The next colleague chose compassion. The third chose self-care. The fourth told a long story that ended with her selecting the word angel. And there was peace, devotion, honor. By the time we got to me, he writes, I was squirming and considering quickly choosing a different word. But even though that felt less risky, it felt dishonest too. So when it was my turn, I blurted, my word for the year is relentless. The room was silent and then filled with nervous laughter. I mean, the world seems to be getting meaner. He said, I guess I chose relentless because I need it. I don't want to give up on the world or on myself. Silence continued, and then one of my retired colleagues smiled and asked loudly, "Can I borrow that?" I want to change my answer from kind to relentlessly kind. Yeah. One by one, my colleagues agreed, and suddenly the interfaith clergy serving one small town had all agreed for the year we could commit ourselves to relentless hope, relentless compassion, relentless self-care, relentless peace, relentless devotion, relentless honor. And somewhere, if we are lucky, a relentless angel will be watching over us all. I now invite us into a time of personal meditation or reflection that perhaps reflect on some relentless quality you need for yourself or for our world. If you wish, you can use this time to light a candle, a symbol of the Spirit within and among us. And always, please remember, if you're going through a difficult time, I am here. Kirsten is here. Your pastoral associates are here. You can fill out a blue card from the pew or just come find one of us. May this time deepen and connect us to one another and to all that lives in our hearts this day. How do we receive the gift of transformation? You don't have to read far in any newspaper to witness our collective need for change in the world, but what lays the groundwork for it to happen? What blocks it? What opens us up to it? We were talking about compartmentalization at a staff meeting not long ago, how it can be helpful but also problematic. These walls humans build up inside ourselves, between our lives at work and at home, between our beliefs at church or at work, between how we think and feel on Sunday morning and what we think and do the rest of the week. And we talked about how sometimes apparently irreconcilable bubbles of our lives must nevertheless intersect. How two compartments that appear unreconcilable must nevertheless be reconciled. Like an expert's opinion on child rearing over here versus your own intuition about what your child needs over there. Or like the way you think about work over here, but how does that intersect with the values you hold from your faith over there? Perhaps something magical can happen in that middle, transformative even. Kirsten had invited the group to think about what an example of that overlap might look like for each of us. She handed out slips of paper with these intersecting circles to prompt our thinking. And what flowed out of me was, on one side, conditioned Ellen, the one who has learned things, who knows things, was shaped by our culture. She loves spreadsheets and project plans. She loves crossing things off lists and putting everything into its proper place. She is very efficient. She's also not always super flexible, and once in a while she can be just a little cynical. And then there is Smooshy Ellen. Yes, that term just flowed right out of me. Smooshy Ellen, who would shed a tear when watching the Dutch king being coronated, who loves TikTok videos of small children talking to baby animals, who is never in a rush and just wants to sit with people and laugh with them or cry with them or hang with them, and she is endlessly hopeful. Conditioned Ellen and Smooshy Ellen are not always on the same page. However, I'm not even sure they always even know the other one exists. Although I have noticed that when they are able to do this, looping, weaving in and through together, then everything goes better. In my life, in my relationships, in the world around me. Thank you for showing those, Jen. One thing that brought me to South Church in this era of my ministry was a desire for Smooshy Ellen to come more to the fore, to hold all that helpful conditioning from my past a little more loosely, and prioritize heart, mine and yours. I have already seen some change in me, and I suspect as I keep looking for ways to do this, transformation, the kind I'm hoping for, will continue to happen. I wonder, what brought you to South Church? Is there something in you that you would like to bring to the fore? What transformation do you want to see happen in yourself or in the world? Transformation is one of our new UU values from Article 2. We adapt to a changing world, the value states, and we covenant to collectively transform and grow, spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages. It says, never complete and never perfect. It is a powerful invitation to change, to deepen, to grow inside ourselves and in relation to our changing world. And like so many opportunities on the spiritual path, it seems that when we do one, we can't help but do the other. When we deepen in some way on our own behalf, we become better advocates for a better world and vice versa. I was thinking about that duality as Lissa and I talked in preparation for this service last week. As we talked, the air felt weighed down with unspoken awareness of the suffering happening in places that are not here. So when Lissa mentioned the Peace Corps, I felt myself exhale. Yes, let's lift up an organization dedicated to creating peace in the world and to transforming individuals in the process. An organization dedicated to reconciling the unreconcilable, to bringing together people from spheres that do not necessarily intersect from this country and others around the world. Let's lift up this organization that invites people to grow personally, living side by side from different cultures while fulfilling that mission internationally to create a peaceful, just, and more prosperous world. But when Lissa also wondered aloud as we talked, what difference has this organization actually made? I realized she had a point. You don't have to look very far to see that the lofty ideals of the Peace Corps have not been fulfilled, are not being fulfilled, at least not yet. You don't have to look far to see that the majority of people appear to not be all that engaged personally or globally. If anything, it's the opposite. And while we could all come up with 1,000 reasons why, I keep wondering, why not? As a minister, I wonder on that individual scale, on a micro level, a personal level, what's in the way? Why aren't people more engaged? What's been missing? What's missing now? So we can better understand what might become possible. A memory from childhood came to my mind. I was 10 or 11 staying with grandparents and saw on TV images of the Holocaust for the first time. I remember feeling undone by it. No one had good answers for my questions. I vaguely remember that night trying to sleep with this unresolvable new awareness while gazing at a framed, hand-drawn portrait in the room where I slept. It now hangs at my parents' house, and when I see it, it still makes me uneasy. Like it holds some truth that my younger self still does not know what to do with. I saw a post not long ago on a list that I am on from a woman who said of herself, "I learned when I was young to not remember bad things that happened or were happening in the world. War, famine, the Holocaust, so that I wouldn't feel bad for eating while children are starving. So I can feel okay getting under the covers while other people are homeless and cold. I recently realized," she said, "that there wasn't a single day in my life when the world was at peace, when humans were not suffering horribly, whether I knew it or not. Most of the time, it is in the back of my mind," she writes, "perhaps as some kind of human mechanism that enables us to live our lives. Walls get built, barriers, defenses. We have to keep going. What can you explain to a child?" I realize, looking back, how much conditioned Ellen shaped her thinking unaware of big life truths. And yet, when I feel anxious, it is often this part that gets the bigger say. I wonder for how many others it's the same. At some point, for me, it became an asset to be able to see hard things and to not fully take them in. But I wonder what else all my built-up walls and barriers block. The same woman who wrote that post I quoted said she is now learning to reconnect, learning to grieve what had been outside her view, learning to open to more of everything, but opening in particular to what is happening in Gaza right now. So she can be one more person who gets something here in her heart that is almost impossible to fathom here in our heads. It feels hopeful to me because I believe that when head and heart can weave and loop together, things become possible that were not possible before. I think of that piece of art from my childhood, holding a truth that I could not. And I think of how much of the world holds things I feel I cannot. The problems are so overwhelming. Walls separate, but sometimes they also protect. And some of us, at some times, we need to protect tender spirits in vulnerable times. Those walls are there for a reason. But others of us, at other times, are invited to heal and grow, open our spirits to more. But how do you breach old walls and get out of denial without falling into despair? That piece of artwork held a truth that I could not. I wonder if art can also help us heal, help me heal what I cannot. Between and among denial and despair, what if art itself can hold both, go deeper, take us higher, or somehow bring in something to hold us that was not there before? I think of a portrait that artist JR installed in Tecate, California, that is literally breaching a wall. Towering dozens of feet above the existing southern border wall, it is a giant photo of a 1-year-old boy. Hair swept to the side and focus drawn by an unseen object, peeking with evident interest from the Mexican side over the slats of the wall at Tecate, California, as if looking over the railing of his crib, its simple innocence and presence changes everything. This image came to the artist, he said, because a 1-year-old child has no idea the purpose of this wall, that it is to divide people, and we can wonder, what might he be thinking? The point of the artwork was to generate conversation, an intersection, a looping of both people on both sides of that wall, allowing them to weave conversation, lives, and love on two sides of a divide. David Brooks, in a recent New York Times opinion piece about the power of art, wrote that artists don't generally set out to improve other people, but their art has the potential to humanize the beholder. The beauty of it, he writes, impels us to pay a certain kind of attention, take a breath, and open ourselves up so that we can receive what it is offering, often with a kind of childlike awe and reverence. I just want to take this moment to note the childlike beauty of the mumblings we are hearing, to remind us of what that's like. And he continues, artwork widens our emotional repertoire. When you read a poem or see a piece of sculpture, you haven't learned a new fact, but you've had a new experience, gained emotional knowledge, how to sympathize with someone who is grieving, how to share the satisfaction of a parent who is watching their child grow. And he writes, art teaches you to see the world through the eyes of another, often a person who sees more deeply than you do. He references Picasso's Guernica about the decimating bombing of Guernica in Spain in 1937. It is not an exact scene, but gives us a glimpse of the horror, he writes, and the suffering and all that leads up to it. Artists, I will say, are those who impossibly, in even the bleakest circumstances, manage to thread in color and hope and understanding, bringing tenderness where it is missing, love where there appears to be none, bringing hope where it looks like there is nothing but its absence. I am here, their artwork says. I see this. I hold this. I see you. I care. And you can too. They are giving something of their hearts to help the rest of us find more of ours. And I can't help but hold in my mind the images of Gaza as I think of that image of Guernica that David Brooks mentioned. And I want to conclude with this story I first heard from Reverend Kim Crawford Harvey about artist Pedro Reyes, who some years ago went to the city of Culiacan in his native Mexico, a city rife with drugs and violent crime. Through radio and TV ads, he put out the call for people to turn in guns, for government-sponsored vouchers and household appliances. 1,527 semi-automatic weapons, rifles, pistols, and shotguns were thrown in the path of an army tank and then flattened by a steamroller while people cheered and wept. Then he melted down the ruined guns and fashioned from them 1,527 shovels. The shovels are now a traveling exhibit. Wherever it goes, people plant trees with the goal of 1,527 new trees in Culiacan. A few years later, he was at it again. This time, more than 6,700 weapons. And this time, he collaborated with 6 musicians to create an orchestra of musical instruments: clarinets, lutes, drums, marimbas, trumpets, violins, and in each one you can still see some part of the gun: barrel, handle, magazine, trigger. Composers were commissioned, and there ensued a great transformation from terrible to beautiful. Zach Pedigo is a graduate student in jazz at the University of South Florida. He is playing a bass with a neck that is made from a double-barreled shotgun. Curved magazines from AK-47 rifles form the body of the guitar. To me, he says, the concept is about taking weapons that are destructive and chaotic by nature and trying to make them for something else. So instead of objects of destruction, they become objects of creation. It is important to consider, Reyes continues, that many lives were taken by these weapons. As if a sort of exorcism were taking place, the music expels the demons that they held, as well as making a requiem for lives lost. Since we can strive to stop the violence not only at the place the weapons are used, but also where they are made, this is a call to action. We live in a time where difficulties seem almost incomprehensible. It can lead to denial or despair. But we also live in times of unfathomable possibility, when we remember we are not alone, that we too are held in the imaginations of open-hearted artists and in the hearts of each other. There is more love out there, and there is more in here. It can change everything. Let's keep on till we find it. Please rise in body or in spirit as we join together for our closing hymn, number 95.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
From Sarah York, adapted. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts they are, and, renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown, remembering that we are all artists and the world is our canvas. Amen.